Welcome back. Today we're going to look at the structure of an atom. And atoms are extremely small. They have a positively charged nucleus and surrounded by a cloud of negatively charged electrons. And almost all the atom's mass is in the nucleus. And if you remember correctly, the nucleus is composed of protons and neutrons. They do have some symbols. Protons usually a lowercase p with a positive sign. Neutrons, lowercase n with a 0, again neutral, and those two make up the nucleus, and then electrons, lowercase e with a minus sign. We're going to look at a couple fairly simple elements and do a little bit of a structure here. So let's look at lithium. It has an atomic number of 3 and an atomic mass of 6.9. When you're looking at atomic mass, especially when you're doing structures, you're either going to round up or round down to the nearest whole number. So 6.9 is going to go to 7. And now remember, the atomic mass is protons and neutrons. So the atomic mass is 7, and we have 3 protons, so that means we would have 4 neutrons. So we have 4 neutrons, we have 3 protons, and therefore we also have 3 electrons. So now with this information, we can go ahead and put together a rough drawing of an atom. So let's do the nucleus. And inside the nucleus are protons and neutrons. And we have 3 protons and we have 4 neutrons. So that makes up almost all of the mass of an atom. Now we also know there are 3 electrons which are in a cloud around the nucleus. Now we're not going to get in this one into the number of electrons per orbital or shell. So I'm going to put some values in here, and we're going to go through some rules later on. But in the first shell, we're going to have 2 electrons, and that'll be in the first shell. And there's counted for 2, so we've only got 1 left over. So we'll put that electron in the next shell. So the first shell can hold 2 electrons, second can hold 8, and then we can get up to 14 and so forth and so forth. But we'll look at that later on. So this would be just a real rough diagram of a lithium atom. 3 protons, 4 neutrons, and a total of 3 electrons. Alright, let's do one more here. And let's look at iron. Iron has symbol of Fe, atomic number, and again you can get all this from the periodic table. Atomic number is 26. Atomic mass is 55.85. So we would round that up to 56. So now we need to determine the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Well, protons we can get pretty quickly here. So we know the atomic number is the number of protons. That's going to be 26. And we also know that the number of protons in a neutral atom is also going to be the number of electrons. So the electrons are going to be 26. And now we got to find the number of neutrons. And again, recall, it's going to be the atomic mass is composed of protons and neutrons. So we can take the atomic mass minus the number of protons, and that will give us the number of neutrons. So 56 minus 26 should be 30. So that'll be neutrons. So from there we can go ahead and do a rough structure of an iron atom. So let's go ahead and put in our nucleus. We have 26 protons. So we got 30 neutrons. So we have protons are going to be 26. Our neutrons are going to be 30. And I'm going to put in the electrons in the order of their shells, but we'll get into this a little bit later what they are. So the first shell is going to have 2 electrons. The second shell is going to have 8 electrons. And the outermost shell, see if we can get a little more room here. Outermost shell, I should say the next shell, excuse me, is going to have 14 electrons. So if we look at this, we got 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 14 is 24, and in the very outer one, we're going to have 2 electrons, because we need 26. So that's going to be in the outermost shell is going to be 2 electrons. So we have 26 protons in the nucleus, we have 30 neutrons in the nucleus, and then in the cloud, we've got 26 electrons. And they're going to be in orbitals or shells, about 2 electrons, 8 electrons, 14, and then the very last one is going to have two electrons in it. And again, as I mentioned, we'll get into the numbers in the orbitals a little bit later. But that's just a brief description of the composition of an atom. So until next time.